The rain in Lagos didn't just fall, it screamed. It washed away the dirt of the streets, but it couldn't wash away the look of pure, unadulterated disgust on Zainab's face. She stood there wrapped in a trench coat that cost more than a year's rent in the slums, looking down at the man huddled on the sidewalk. He smelled of old newspapers, damp earth, and failure. To Zainab, he wasn't a man, he was a stain on the sidewalk. Before we go back to the morning this all began, before we see how Zainab's pride led her directly into a trap she built for herself, I need you to do something. If you believe that kindness is a superpower, if you believe that every human being deserves respect regardless of their smell or their clothes, hit that like button right now. Go into the comments and type, "I see you." Let's show the world that we don't look past the invisible people in our streets. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications. Why? Because the payback in this story isn't just a moment, it is a masterpiece. Now let's go back to the story. "Get up," she hissed, her voice cutting through the thunder like a blade. "You're ruining the entrance to the finest cafe in the city. Your very presence is an insult to people who actually matter." The man looked up, his eyes weary, his hands trembling as he clutched a cardboard cup. "I'm just trying to stay dry, ma'am," he whispered. Zainab didn't just walk away. She reached into her designer handbag, pulled out a bottle of $300 French perfume, and began spraying the air around him with a frantic, hateful energy. "The smell of poverty is sticking to my skin," she shrieked for the whole street to hear. "You're a cockroach. You're nothing. In 2 hours I'll be sitting in a boardroom deciding the fate of thousands, and you'll still be here rotting in the rain." She didn't know that the man she just sprayed like an insect was the only person who held the key to her future. She didn't know that in exactly 2 hours, when she walked into that boardroom, she wouldn't be looking down at him, she would be begging him for mercy. Welcome back to Modernist Africa Folktale. If that opening moment made your blood boil, you are in the right place. On this channel we tell the stories the world tries to ignore. We tell stories of the humble queen who rises from the ashes. We tell stories of the proud giant who is brought to his knees by his own arrogance. We believe in a simple truth. Your value is not measured by the car you drive, the label on your suit, or the balance in your bank account. Your value is measured by how you treat the person who can do absolutely nothing for you. A world that is obsessed with clout and status, we are here to remind you that the universe has a long memory. Fate does not sleep, and karma always keeps the receipts. Now let's go back to 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. The day Zainab's world was perfect, and the day it began to crumble. Zoey Alali lived her life by a single ironclad rule: only the strong survive, and the strong look good doing it. At 29 years old, Zainab was the senior vice president of marketing at Apex Global, a multi-billion-dollar tech firm in the heart of the city. Her apartment was a glass-walled fortress in Victoria Island. Her closet was a museum of Italian leather and French silk. To her 500,000 Instagram followers, she was the Empress of Equity. She posted daily grind quotes about how she started from the bottom and worked her way up. But Zainab had a secret. He hated the bottom. She hated it so much that she had erased it from her memory. She forgot that her own mother had sold roasted corn on the side of the road to pay for Zainab's first pair of school shoes. Forgot the smell of the charcoal and the dust of the village. He had buried that girl in a mountain of designer shopping bags and spoke with an accent that she had carefully practiced until it sounded like she had been born in London. "I am a brand," she told her reflection that Tuesday morning as she applied a lipstick that cost $90. And brands do not associate with the broken. That day was the biggest day of her career. The founder of Apex Global, the legendary and mysterious Dr. Samuel Okoro, was retiring. He was a man no one had seen in years. He didn't do interviews. He didn't go to galas. He ran a $10 billion empire from the shadows. And today he was announcing his successor. The rumor mill was working overtime. Everyone at Apex knew it was down to two people: Zoey Alali or Marcus Thorne. Marcus was a legacy hire born with a silver spoon. Zainab was the self-made star. She knew she had the numbers. Knew she had the talent. She just needed to make an entrance. She left her apartment at 8 a.m., her heels clicking against the marble floor. Like a countdown. She decided to stop at the Gilded Bean, the most exclusive cafe in the city, located right next to the Apex headquarters. She wanted to walk into that boardroom with a $15 latte in her hand, looking like a woman who had already won. The rain started as her car pulled up. It was a sudden, violent downpour. She stepped out of her silver Mercedes. Her driver held a large umbrella over her head. She gripped her $5,000 Birkin bag close to her chest, her eyes scanning the entrance. And that's when she smelled it. It was a sharp, pungent odor. The smell of unwashed clothes and desperation. It stopped in her tracks, her nose wrinkling in immediate disgust. There, huddled under the small overhang of the cafe entrance, was a man. He wore a tattered, grease-stained army jacket. His hair was matted with rain and dirt. He was sitting on a pile of wet cardboard trying to keep a small, stray dog warm inside his jacket. He looked up as Zainab approached, his eyes a deep, piercing brown that seemed to look right through her expensive makeup. "Good morning, sister," the man said. His voice was raspy, but it was calm. "It's a heavy rain today. May God protect your journey." Zainab stopped 3 feet away from him. She didn't see a brother. He didn't see a human being in need of a kind word. She saw an obstacle. "Don't call me sister," she snapped, her voice loud enough to make the other customers inside the cafe turn their heads. "We are not related by anything, least of all blood. You are a public nuisance. Do you have any idea how much this suit costs? The mere air around you is damaging the fabric." The man looked down at the dog in his arms. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm just waiting for the bus to pass. The shelter is 6 blocks away." "Then walk," Zainab retorted. "The water will do you some good. You smell like it. It's offensive. People are trying to enjoy their lives here and you're turning this place into a landfill." Inside the cafe, the manager, a thin, nervous man named Paul, saw Zainab and rushed out. He knew Zainab. She was a regular who tipped poorly but brought the right kind of people to the shop. "Ms. Alali, I am so sorry," Paul stuttered. "I've tried to move him, but he says he's just resting." "Paul, look at him," Zainab said, gesturing wildly with her manicured hand. "He's a vagrant. He's probably a thief. Is this the image you want for your business? I'm about to go into a meeting with the board of directors. If I smell like this, because I had to walk past him, I will make sure our company's corporate account is moved to the cafe down the street." Paul's face went pale. The corporate account for Apex Global was worth $50,000 a month in catering and coffee. "You," Paul shouted at the man. "Move. No. I don't care about the rain. Go sit under a bridge." The man stood up slowly. He was taller than he looked while sitting. Even in his rags, there was a strange dignity to the way he moved. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He just looked at Zainab one more time. "You have a very beautiful face, ma'am," the man said quietly. "But your heart is a very lonely place. I hope one day you find the wealth you're actually missing." This was the moment that broke Zainab's composure. She felt a heat rise in her chest, a mixture of shame she couldn't name and a rage she couldn't control. How dare this garbage man speak to her about wealth? She reached into her bag. She didn't pull out a $5 bill to help him get a meal. She pulled out her perfume, a limited edition oud and rose. He stepped forward, and before the man could react, she sprayed it directly onto his chest, right where he was holding the shivering dog. "There," she laughed, a high, cold sound. "Now you smell like a human being. At least for a few minutes. Consider it my charity for the year." The man flinched as the alcohol-heavy spray hit his face. He didn't say a word. He simply turned, stepped out into the pouring rain and began to walk. The umbrella. No destination. Just a man and a dog disappearing into the gray mist of the city. Zainab watched him go, feeling a sense of triumph. "Finally," she muttered, brushing an invisible speck of dust from her sleeve. "The air is clear." She walked into the cafe, ordered her expensive drink, and spent 20 minutes complaining to Paul about the declining standards of the neighborhood. checked her reflection in the window, adjusted her hair and checked her watch. 9:45 a.m. In 15 minutes the board meeting would begin. In 15 minutes she would be named the CEO of Apex Global. She walked out of the cafe, her head held high. She didn't notice a black SUV with tinted windows parked across the street. She didn't see the man in the army jacket step into the back of that SUV. And she certainly didn't see him take off the jacket to reveal a tailored shirt underneath. As Zainab entered the golden elevator of the Apex building, she felt like she was ascending to her throne. He walked through the lobby where the receptionists bowed their heads in respect. She walked past the marketing floor, where her subordinates whispered in awe. She reached the 40th floor, the executive suite. The mahogany doors to the boardroom were closed. 2 security guards stood. Zainab straightened her blazer, took a deep breath of the sanitized, expensive office air and nodded to the guards. "The board is ready for you, Ms. Alali," one of them said. Zainab walked in. The room was silent. 10 of the most powerful people in the country sat around a glass table that seemed to stretch for miles. At the head of the table was an empty chair. The chairman's chair. Marcus Thorne was already there, sitting on the left side. He looked nervous. He looked beaten. Zainab smiled at him, a predator's smile. "Welcome, Zainab," said Mr. Adeyemi, the oldest member of the board. His face was unreadable. "Please take a seat. We have much to discuss before the chairman arrives to make his announcement." "Of course," Zainab said, her voice smooth as honey. "I've prepared a 90-day transition plan that I believe will increase our Q3 margins by at least 12%. "Later, Zainab," Adeyemi interrupted. "Before we talk about the company's future, we need to talk about the company's values. Dr. Okoro sent us a message this morning. He wanted to remind us that Apex Global was built on the principle of Ubuntu, I am because we are. He believes that a leader who does not respect the smallest among us cannot be trusted with the largest." Zainab felt a slight tremor in her stomach, but she pushed it down. "I couldn't agree more, Mr. Adeyemi. My record of leadership speaks for itself." "Does it?" Adeyemi asked. Suddenly the large screen on the wall flickered to life. Zainab's heart stopped. It wasn't a graph. It wasn't a spreadsheet. It was a video. The quality was high definition. It was taken from a security camera, the one mounted directly above the entrance of the Gilded Bean Cafe. The room watched in absolute terrifying silence as Zainab Alali appeared on the screen. They watched her wrinkle her nose. They heard her voice amplified by the boardroom speakers calling a man a cockroach and an insult to people who matter. And then they saw the perfume. They saw Zainab spray the man in the rain like he was a pest. They saw the man walk away into the storm. Zainab felt the blood drain from her face. The room felt like it was spinning. The expensive suit she was wearing suddenly felt like a straitjacket. "This," Zainab stammered, her voice cracking. "This is a misunderstanding. That man. He was harassing me. He was a threat to my safety. I was just protecting myself." "He was sitting on cardboard, Zainab," Marcus Thorne said, his voice filled with a mixture of pity and shock. "He was holding a dog." "You don't understand," Zainab shouted, her London accent disappearing, replaced by a shrill, desperate tone. "You know how it is out there. These people, they bring down the property value. They make the city look bad. I was thinking of the company. I was thinking of our image." "Is that what you were doing?" The voice didn't come from anyone at the table. The doors at the back of the boardroom opened. The footsteps were slow, deliberate. The click of expensive leather shoes on the hardwood floor. Zainab turned around. Her breath left her body in a single painful gasp. Standing in the doorway was a man. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit that cost more than her Mercedes. His hair was perfectly groomed. His face was clean. But his eyes, those deep piercing brown eyes, she had seen them less than an hour ago. He walked to the head of the table. He didn't look at the board members. He looked directly at Zainab. And as he got closer, a scent filled the room. It was the smell of oud and rose. Her perfume. The man pulled a small silk handkerchief from his pocket and wiped a lingering drop of moisture from his cheek. He sat down in the chairman's chair. "Good morning, Zainab," he said. His voice was no longer raspy. It was the voice of a man who owned the building, the street, and the very air she was breathing. "I believe you wanted to tell me about your 90-day plan?" Zainab's knees buckled. She had to grab the back of her chair to keep from falling. "Dr. Okoro," she whispered. The man smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a judge delivering a sentence. "Most people call me Samuel," he said. "But this morning you called me a cockroach. You called me a nuisance. And you were very concerned about my smell." He leaned forward, his hands interlaced on the glass table. "I have spent 30 years building this company," Samuel said. "I grew up in a house with a leaking roof. I have slept on cardboard. Have walked 6 miles in the rain because I didn't have a kobo for the bus. I went out there today to see if the people I am leaving my legacy to remember what it's like to be human. Wanted to see if success had made you wise, or if it had just made you blind." He looked at the board members. "I have my answer." The silence in the boardroom was no longer quiet. It was heavy. It was the kind of silence that felt like it was crushing the oxygen out of the room. Zainab's ears were ringing. She looked at Dr. Samuel Okoro, the man she had treated like a stray animal, and her mind raced, trying to find a lie big enough to save her. "Sir," she whispered, her voice trembling so hard it was barely audible. Please. You have to understand the pressure I was under. Today was the most important day of my life. I was stressed. I wasn't myself." Samuel didn't blink. He picked up the $15 latte Zainab had brought into the room, the one she had bought just minutes after spraying him, and looked at it. "You weren't yourself?" Samuel asked, his voice calm and terrifying. "On the contrary, Zainab. I think for the first time in years you were exactly yourself. You didn't think any cameras were watching. You didn't think there were any important people around to impress. You thought you were alone with a man who had nothing. And when you are alone with someone who has nothing, that is when your true character finally comes out to breathe." He turned the cup of coffee around in his hands. "You told me that my presence was an insult to people who matter," Samuel continued. "Tell me, Zainab, who are the people who matter? Is it the board members sitting here in their $5,000 suits? Is it your 500,000 followers who only see the filter you put on your life? Or is it the people who actually build this city? The ones who sweep the streets, the ones who sell the corn, the ones who sit in the rain because they have no choice?" Zainab began to sob. It wasn't the quiet, dignified cry of a victim. It was the loud, messy wailing of a woman who knew she had lost her kingdom. "I'm sorry," she screamed, dropping to her knees. Her expensive silk trousers hit the floor, but she didn't care about the fabric anymore. "I'll do anything. I'll donate my entire salary to the homeless shelters. I'll lead a CSR campaign. I'll go on TV and apologize to you. Please don't take this from me. I worked so hard to get out of the village. I can't go back there." Samuel looked at her with a profound sense of sadness. "That's the problem, Zainab. You think the village is a punishment. You think poverty is a disease. You worked so hard to change your clothes that you forgot to change your soul. You think you're better than the girl who sold corn. But that girl, she had more dignity in one finger than you have in your entire body." He looked at Mr. Adeyemi. "Adeyemi, bring her in." The side door opened again. A young woman walked in. She was wearing the simple blue uniform of the Apex Global Cleaning staff. Her name was Beezy. She was 22 years old, her hair was in neat braids, and she looked terrified to be in a room with so many powerful people. Zainab looked at Beezy, confused. "What is this?" "This," Samuel said, "is the rest of the story. You see, Zainab, I didn't just sit in front of the cafe today. I've been homeless for 3 days. I've sat in the lobby of this very building. I've sat in the break room of the marketing and I've sat in the parking lot." He pointed at Beezy. 2 days ago I was sitting near the employee entrance. It was lunch hour. You walked past me, Zainab. You stepped over my legs and told your assistant that the building smelled like failure because I was there. You didn't even look at my face. He then looked at Beezy. But then Beezy came out. She didn't have much. She's an hourly worker and I know for a fact she's sending most of her paycheck home to her brothers in Badang. But she stopped. She didn't call me a cockroach. She asked me if I had eaten. And when I said no, she gave me half of her jollof rice. He even went back inside and brought me a bottle of water from the cooler. Sat on the curb, in her clean uniform, and talked to me for 10 minutes about the dog. Beezy looked down at her shoes, her face flushing. I didn't know who you were, sir. I just thought you looked lonely. Samuel stood up. He walked over to Beezy and placed a hand on her shoulder. You didn't know who I was. That is the only reason it mattered, Samuel said. He then turned his gaze back to Zainab, who was still on the floor. Zoey Alali, you are fired. Effectively immediately. The words hit like a physical blow. Zainab gasped, her breath hitching. You can't fire me. I have a contract. I have a non-compete. I have shares. Read the fine print of your morality clause, Zainab, Adiemi said, sliding a document across the table. Bringing the company into disrepute through public acts of cruelty and harassment is a breach of contract. And as for your shares, the board has already voted. We are exercising our right to buy them back at the original valuation. You're leaving with what you brought in. Nothing. Samuel looked at his assistant. Have security escort Ms. Alali out. Make sure she leaves through the front door. The same door where she sprayed me. Zainab didn't go quietly. As the guards grabbed her arms, she began to scream. She cursed Samuel, she cursed Beezy, she cursed the board. She was a woman, possessed by the ghost of the status she had lost. You'll regret this, she shrieked as she was dragged down the hallway. I am Zoey Alali. I'll start my own firm. I'll take all your clients. You're nothing but a man in a costume. But as the elevator doors closed on her face, the only thing left in the boardroom was the fading scent of oud and rose. In the age of the internet, your worst moment doesn't just happen. It lives forever. Within 2 hours of Zainab being escorted out of the building, the video from the cafe hit the internet. Paul, the cafe manager, had been so disgusted by what he saw that he had leaked the footage to a popular Nigerian blog. The headline went viral instantly. Marketing Empress discarded. Zoey Alali fired after mocking homeless billionaire. The math of her downfall was brutal. In the first hour, she lost 100,000 followers. By the second hour, every brand she represented, the luxury car company, the high-end skincare line, the jewelry boutique, issued statements, distancing themselves from her. By evening, her Instagram page was a graveyard of deleted posts and a comment section filled with 50,000 messages of pure fire. I thought she was a queen, but she's just a bully in a blazer, one comment. Read. The smell of her pride was worse than any street smell, wrote another. Zainab sat in her glass apartment in Victoria Island, watching her life evaporate through a phone screen. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing, but it wasn't the calls she wanted. Her friends, the ones she had gone to brunch with, the ones she had traveled to Dubai with, had blocked her. Her assistant had resigned. By a text message. The most painful part? The math of her bank account. Apex Global had frozen her corporate credit cards. The lease on her apartment was tied to her employment. The Empress was being evicted. Meanwhile, Dr. Samuel Okoro was making one more announcement. He didn't do it via a press release. He did it in the lobby of Apex Global in front of all the employees. We are promoting Beezy to the corporate relations department, Samuel announced. We are paying for her to finish her degree in social work. Because at this company, we don't just want people who can sell products. We want people who can see human beings. The lobby erupted in applause. Beezy cried. And for the first time in years, the air in the building felt truly clean. 6 months passed. In the city of Lagos, stories move fast. New scandals replace old ones. But some lessons take time to fully bake. Zoey Alali was no longer in Victoria Island. She was living in a small, one-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood she used to mock. He had sold her Mercedes to pay her legal fees. She had sold her designer bags to pay for food. She had tried to get another job. But whenever she walked into an interview, the HR manager would look at her, then look at their computer screen and see the video of the perfume. We're looking for a culture fit, they would say. And your culture is, well, it's not for us. Zainab had reached the point she feared most. She was invisible. She was the one. Walking in the rain now. She was the one whose clothes were no longer pressed. One Tuesday morning, the same day of the week it had all started, Zainab found herself standing outside the same cafe, the Gilded Bean. She wasn't there to buy a latte. She was there because she was hungry and she had heard that a local charity was doing a food drive in the area. She stood in the line, her head down, her shoulders hunched. She wore a plain t-shirt and jeans. Her $90 lipstick was long gone. The rain began to fall. Zainab shivered. She didn't have an umbrella. She didn't have a driver. He just had a cardboard box she was using to keep her head dry. She felt a presence beside her. She looked up, expecting to see a security guard telling her to move. Instead, she saw a man holding a large black umbrella over her head. It was Dr. Samuel Okoro. He wasn't wearing an army jacket. He was wearing a simple tracksuit. He looked like a regular man taking a walk. Zainab froze. She wanted to run. She wanted to hide. She was terrified he was there to mock her, to finish the job he started in the boardroom. It's a heavy rain today, Samuel said. His voice was the same, calm, deep, and steady. Zainab couldn't look him in the eye. I know, she whispered. I'm moving. Just waiting for the line to move. I'll be gone in a minute. Why are you hiding your face, Zainab? Because I know what I look like, she said, a tear finally breaking through. I know what I smell like. I know what I am. Samuel stayed silent for a long moment. He watched the rain bounce off the pavement. Do you? He asked. He reached into his pocket. He didn't pull out a bottle of perfume. He pulled out a small laminated card. It was an application for a training program, a vocational center he had opened in her mother's old village. I didn't fire you to destroy you, Zainab, Samuel said. I fired you to give you a chance to find the girl you buried under those shopping bags. The girl who knew how to work. The girl who knew what it felt like to have nothing. He handed her the card. There is a job there, he said. It's not a VP role. It's a coordinator role. For the youth program. It pays enough to live but not enough for Louboutins. You'll have to work in the dust. You'll have to talk to people who smell like charcoal and hard work every single day. Zainab looked at the card. Her hands were shaking. Why? After what I did? Why? Would you help me? Samuel smiled. This time it was the kind of smile she had seen Beezy give him. Because, Samuel said, I am because we are. If I leave you in the rain, I am. No better than the woman you were 6 months ago. The test isn't over, Zainab. The question is, are you ready to pass it? Zainab looked at the cafe entrance. She remembered the perfume. She remembered the rage. And then she looked at Samuel. She didn't reach for her pride. She reached for the card. I'm ready, she whispered. Samuel nodded. He handed her the umbrella. Keep it. I have another one in the car. As he walked away, Zainab didn't watch his car. She didn't check her followers. She stood in the rain, holding the umbrella, and for the first time in her life, she didn't care about the smell of the air. She just cared about the weight of the card in her hand. 1 year later, the village of Abba was vibrant with the sound of children laughing. In the center of the community center, a woman was sitting on a low wooden stool. She was wearing a simple cotton dress. Her hair was pulled back. She was helping a group of young girls learn how to code on refurbished laptops. A black SUV pulled up to the gate. Samuel Okoro stepped out. He walked into the center, standing at the back, watching the woman work. She didn't see him at first. He was too busy explaining a line of Python script to a 10-year-old girl. And remember, the woman said to the girl, the code only works if the logic is honest. If you try to skip a step, the whole system fails. Just like life. The girl nodded, her eyes bright. Thank you, Auntie Zainab. Zainab smiled. A real, warm, honest smile that reached her eyes. It was a smile that didn't need a filter. She looked up and saw Samuel. She didn't panic. She didn't beg. She stood up, brushed the dust from her skirt and walked over to him. Dr. Okoro, she said, extending her hand. Samuel took it. Her hand was no longer soft and manicured. It was calloused. It was strong. How is the program? Samuel asked. We've graduated 50 students this month, Zainab said. 3 of them just got internships at Apex. They're good, Samuel. They're hungry. And they're kind. Samuel looked around the room. He smelled the familiar scent of the village. The wood smoke, the earth, the jollof rice being cooked in the kitchen. And you? He asked. How are you? Zainab looked at her reflection in the glass door of the computer lab. So, woman she finally recognized. I don't have a Rolls Royce, she said with a small laugh. I don't have a Birkin bag. And sometimes at the end of the day I smell like a lot of hard work. She looked Samuel in the eye. But for the first time in my life, I think I matter. Samuel nodded, a sense of peace washing over him. Then the lesson is complete. As the sun sets over the village, we leave Zainab and Samuel. The story of Zoey Alali is a reminder to us all. We are living in a world that tells us to look up, to climb, to step on whoever we need to in order to reach. It tells us that our scent is our status. But the truth is much simpler. The people you mock today might be the people you have to answer to tomorrow. The man you spray with perfume might be the one who holds your destiny in his hands. And the homeless man on the street? He might just be your boss testing to see if you have the one thing money can't buy: a heart. Never judge a book by its cover. Never judge a man by his smell. And never, ever forget where you came from. Because every tale has a lesson, and modern African folk tales never forget. If this story touched your soul, if it made you think twice about how you treat the invisible people in your life, please hit that like button. Don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to see more stories where the humble rise and the proud are humbled, hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications.